Hello. Right. Merry Christmas, to everyone. Sorry we're running late. Really sorry. It's Seventh Sanctum. It's going to be a live. This is a live chat. Now Christmas time is traditional to tell ghost stories. Um, on Christmas Eve, especially. But I didn't know you had to live one. And that's what this has been, this live so far. That's why we're running so late, because I think the gremlins have got in, had a little rummage about, and kind of like messed around with everything. So as normal, it's kind of like gone a little bit haywire, but we are in and on. Okay, so we're in the pipe. We have with us Laura. I'm going to bring Laura on. Here we go. Hi, Laura.
Hello.
And we've got Kerry Ann. Hello, Kerry.
Hello. A little bit faceless today.
I know. Yes.
I'm going
Have
to
you not
be
done your makeup?
lovingly. Do you know what? I actually did, which makes this even more annoying, right? But
Yeah.
I'm going to be lovingly known as the ghost of Christmas past, maybe.
Hello, Jojo.
Let's go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. I can't believe it. We were popping in and out, guys. We were popping in and out of like this streaming platform. One was going, another one was coming in, another one's going. And it was just like, oh, what's going on? So
Yeah,
but at least we've made it. We've made it, guys,
It's been a chaotic half hour, hasn't it, Phil?
Yeah, just been like, God, yeah, it has. It has been a very hectic. Yeah, it has been very yeah. I've been kind of like pulling my hair out a little bit. Must admit. Yeah. So right, what we're going to be talking about basically is Christmas time, ghost stories, and going to be asking you guys if you've got anything which is creepy to talk about. We also want to go over a little bit of where we've been previously, because we've been to a lot of different places, seen a lot of different stuff, and your standout moments from that. The moments which you can think to yourself, do you know, that was a standout. I've got my standout moment. I've got my one standout moment, and I'll tell it in a little while. Ladies first, I say. Now, during this, what have we got? Now we've got Jojo. Hello, Jojo. We've got yeah, we've got
That's Stacey.
Yeah, we made it, Stacey.
Valerie. Yeah, hello, Stacey. Yes, right. So yeah, happy Christmas Eve. Yeah, good. Okay. So right. Who wants to kick it off? I mean, should we talk about your top moments? Laura, what's your top that you remember of going on any one of our little jaunts that we've been on?
I mean, I'm very new to this, so I think my most standout one would have been Colchester Castle. I had a really, really strange experience down in the prison, and I've always been a believer and I've always been open, but that kind of solidified it for me. It was, yeah, really, really hit me like, oh my god, this is happening. So, hi Bella.
Hello, Bella. And we have also, let's have a look. Yeah, we've got that. Okay. I can hear is there a dog in the background? I can hear a dog in the background.
My dog's trying to get on the bed and take my socks, and we've moved the stairs away, so he's on the floor trying to get up to me.
Ah. All right. How you doing, Ryan? Got Ryan in the group as well. Just come on to comments. How you doing? What did I say? Had an ex named Stacey I was in love with. Oh, okay.
Oh, Ryan.
Well, my dog
very
has.
Lucky. Stacey is.
Yeah. Socks are amazing for dogs.
He found his way up. Here is the sock stealer, everybody.
Oh, lovely. Oh, look at him. Oh, yeah, he means trouble. That
he
face
is
means
trouble.
trouble.
The
Yeah,
amount of socks he's
trouble.
eaten, he is trouble.
Okay, we've got paranormal walks as well. Hello, Stu.
Doxy, get off.
Hope you're doing okay. Long time. I've got to catch up with you, Stu, at some point. I haven't spoken to you for a little while.
Sorry, he's stuck in my headphones now. Get out the
Is
way,
he?
dog. It must be a Jack Russell thing, Jojo, because they're all Jack Russells, I believe, aren't they, Phil? Your dogs as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got two Jack Russells. Basil is a cross with a Chihuahua. He's a bit crazy. He's crazy. But
Mine's
don't tell
crossed
him.
with a poodle, so he thinks he's really clever. But then the Jack Russell, he's just cheeky, and he doesn't really get away with it.
Jack Russells are great, for paranormal. If you go out and you take your dogs with you, they kind of like, because they're terriers, so they're terror. They're like underground dogs. They are hunting dogs.
Yeah, they're a
That's
bit
what
more
they're for.
tuned
Yeah,
into it all, aren't
they're
they?
very tuned in. Beautiful, intelligent little dogs. Gutsy, really gutsy.
Oh yes.
Yeah, Jojo. She says my little dog is Phil's dog's twin. Yeah, it is. They are twin. They look so alike. Jojo's dog and Ruby, black and white one, looks and Basil. Oh my god, yeah. But they're so alike. Yeah. Right. Okay. So yeah, let's get to it. Laura, Colchester Castle. Tell us.
Yeah.
Your turn. Go on, off you
So
go.
it was probably my third investigation, and it really was sort of. It was probably. I'm trying to think now. It was our first public one, or my first public one, where we were kind of heading it up almost. And I took a group down into the basement or the prison with Andy. I was working with that night, and he kind of let me take the lead, and it was terrifying because I'm so new to everything. I was like, oh my god, I'm being trusted with people and paranormal and everything. And then all of a sudden, this face just appeared in the cell. And we started getting hits on all of the different sort of readers. So the K2 was going mad. We had lights flashing all over. People were getting chills and feeling things. And everyone was like, this can't be real. This can't be real. And I don't know if anyone that's with us tonight has been to Colchester Castle. They've got like a voice box that's motion censored. And we'd asked them earlier in the night to turn that round so that it couldn't be set off by us, because we didn't want that to happen. And all of a sudden, this thing started going crazy and started talking to us. And it actually, the point in which this tape recording started talking had answered one of the questions that we'd asked. And it was so strange and so surreal. And then again, this face popped out in between the cell, and the woman that had her back to it, she ran across the room. So the face, Ryan, it was, I can only describe it as a very older lady, very grey hair, quite bedraggled looking. She didn't look happy. And she kind of come and went, so it was quite hard to get a clear picture of her. So while we were talking, I can't remember exactly, we did record it. But it was something along the lines of, are you trapped here, or would you like to leave? And the saying said something like, that's a really good question. Get me out, or something like that. And it was just too coincidental. It really was sort of hit us, and we were like, oh my God. And a few people actually left because they got a little bit like, wow.
What was the face again? It was like an old lady, was it?
So
Laura?
yeah, what I could see, it was very dark around the edges, but there was definitely grey, white hair, very haggard appearance, an older lady. It was definitely a lady. But it was my first real view of an actual spirit, other being, because like I say, I'm so new to it. I've felt things and I've heard things, but this was my first time seeing, and I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Right. Yeah. We've got Ryan Sweeney, and Ryan's just said, yeah, there is 2 afterlives. it's an old lady or a black shadow. So
Yeah, we done some research after, and we found out about the old lady and sort of the history behind it. So it was really interesting. Me and Kerry done that together.
okay, right. Okay, and you sure is a did when you went into the history, was there any was it any old lady there that had died? Is there
Yeah,
any
so
trail?
yeah, it when we looked into the history, it was something along the lines that a mother and daughter were both accused of witchcraft.
Hmm.
And obviously the Colchester castles is where they kept a lot of the witches, and the daughter sold out her mum to save herself, essentially. So the mum was trialed and ultimately killed, and the daughter got away, or she managed to survive a bit longer. I'm not quite sure where her story led her. But that's, yeah, it was like, oh my god. And it described the woman in like the books and things exactly as I had seen her, and it was, yeah, absolutely bonkers, but really fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's fun. It's fun. I think it's great when you get evidence like that. Um,
Mm,
and you see something and you think, right, okay, and then you dig a bit deeper and go, right, okay, well, there was an old lady here that died here, and the two go together,
yeah,
like so and that makes it, it kind of like puts it to rest in a way, doesn't it? You know what I
yeah,
mean? It kind of puts it to rest in my mind. It kind of like, oh right, okay, well that correlates, and that really works. Yeah.
yeah. It put a
Ah,
nice little bow on it, and it tied it all up in a nice little ribbon almost, because it was just so perfect and so like all rounded. It was, yeah.
yeah, yeah. When you saw the lady, would you say that, because I've often wondered with ghosts, um, if I died and came back and I came back as a ghost, then I would make sure that I would try my darndest, or I would probably, leave a sign, a bit like kind of like, just okay with someone. Look, if I come back, then it's going to be my the pigeons are flying over Moscow Square, or I will write on a misted up window in the bathroom. I'll
Yeah,
write a sign of something.
yeah.
I
I
always
like
said
to
I
think
thought
I
I'd do
would
that.
be, yeah, I like to think I'd be quite a cheeky spirit, like just
Hmm.
getting up to mischief, but making people aware that I'm very definitely there. But
Yeah,
I think I don't know, I just believe it's quite hard for them to communicate. So any communication is a lot of effort, I would think, or I believe. So
but that's the thing, isn't it? A lot of people have like near death experiences,
yeah,
and they see the light, and it's just lovely. And they go in. A lot of coma victims, they go into the light, and everything is so just like, it's just it's fantastic. You've got people that know you, love you, come up, say hello, blah, blah. And this happens all over the world to so many people, and they have the same experience. Whether it is kind of like psychosomatic from the point of view if they've heard these stories, and
yeah,
and it kind of like, puts into their mind all white light, and I think it's actually a physiological thing because of the white light, because with the shutting down of the brain,
I
it
think it's
could
the
be
blood
that
coming away. Yeah,
yeah, it
but
could be. Yeah. The signals in the synapses is like kind of just like, it's sending, it's putting images which aren't there in, which are light images, maybe, it could well
yeah.
be. But if you had the choice of going into the light or hanging around as a ghost, what would you do?
Oh, I like the idea of reincarnation, which means I would need to pass over in order to come back. Um, but I think if I didn't like the idea of reincarnation, I would. Oh, I don't know. That's really hard
It
because
is, isn't it? I
a
know.
lot of people say if you stay here, it's because you're stuck, and I don't
Mm.
know if I'd want to be stuck because that might mean that I've had a bad ending. Um, but I would like to let people know that I'm okay. So I guess I'd like a few days to make peace, and then I'd go and be happy.
Well, I believe you saying that. I do believe, I kind of like know in a way that when someone passes on, there's 3 days they have, and during those 3 days, that's when they're able to go around, say goodbye to
Okay.
their loved ones, and just hang around. That's, and I pretty much know this as a fact because I've had quite a few sort of like people die on me, if you like, and it's and I've always had the same thing happen within 3 days. There's always been
A sign of some sort.
yeah, something that's gone on, which has been sort of, even with animals. It's happened with my dogs. We had
My first
Molly.
experience was an animal.
Oh, really? Go on, tell me,
Yeah.
spill the beans. Spill the beans. Go on.
I'd recently lost my cat, and we always had cats when I was growing up, but he was the only cat at the time. After that, we had about 5 at a time, so it was different. But I could kind of debunk my own fear almost. And I was laying in bed one night, not long after he'd passed, and my hand fell off the side of the bed, and I felt something touch it, and I was like, oh, bit freaked out, like you do. I was about 12, 13, so I was a bit like, oh, what was that? What was that? And when I picked my hand off the side of the bed, it was wet, as if an animal had licked it. And it was just so surreal. And I was like, that's like, there's no water there. I've not got a drink on the floor. There's no puddles on the floor. Why would there be? And it had felt like I'd been licked. So it was just, yeah, I like to think that was my cat saying bye to me.
Yeah.
So that was kind of probably my first thing that I remember anyway. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? It's like I mean, we've got with Jojo. She says that her dad came and sat on her bed. He died that day, and so came back that night.
Was he fully there, or were you aware it was him, but you couldn't make out sort of the details? Does that make sense, Jojo? Because I wonder, like you're saying, Phil, if it's like a 3-day thing, are they more powerful on the first day and then it slowly fades away? And
they're pretty powerful. Their spirit is quite strong.
They're as if
because
he
of
was
their
alive.
intent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Their spirit. Yeah. Their spirit's quite strong for the whole duration of the 3 days, but you do get the 3 days. That's what I strongly believe. Just to go visit and kind of, and I think during that time, you see, I think there's another people that kind of like in RTAs and stuff like that, where they're like, boom, that's it, they're dead. Maybe they don't know they're dead. Maybe they're running through. Because I've got a theory.
There was sorry.
Which one?
There was a really interesting experiment that's about this. So he looked at, the guy that done it was called Konstantin Karatskov, and he used the scanning. When you go for when you have a sports injury, and you go for that body scan, it's got the red and the yellow and the green. So he was able to use that. I can't remember. Is it a Clion photography or Kieran? Something like that. I can't remember what it's called. Essentially, though,
it's a Russian guy came up with it, wasn't it? I believe, and it was a Kirilov photography. It's almost like photography of the auras, of someone's aura, their energy. They're able to photograph the energy around a person. I'll just have a little look online.
So then what they do is they were able to map the way the soul left the body and what areas the soul would leave the body first. But when they were saying that if there was a death that was unexpected, then the soul would return back to the body for up to 3 days and then leave again. However, they found that those that had an expected death, the amount of times that the soul would revisit the body again would be less and for not as long. So I thought that would be that's a really interesting study when we think a little bit about energy soul and what happens after we pass, especially when a lot of it is based in this is science. There's not a lot of science in paranormal, is there? It's a pseudoscience, which is really difficult to measure. But essentially, this is quite an interesting aspect of research that they did around soul mapping. They use the same technology around geomapping as well, which is also quite interesting.
Kirlian pronunciation. Yeah, it's Kirlian, Kirlian, Kirlian photography, a technique that captures the electrical discharges that occur around an object when it's placed in an electrified plate or paper. Yeah, so you know,
it makes some beautiful pictures, because I'm googling it as well, Phil, and it's very vivid.
Very, very lovely. Yeah.
The guy that done the research was called the guy that did the research was called Konstantin Karatkov, for anyone that would be interested in looking at that research. But yeah, he done a lot of research around energy locations and why areas of worship would have a higher vibrational pull than those around it that didn't have the same kind of energy projected onto it as well. So again, looking at geomapping and the effect that the energy has on the people that are in that area. It's quite interesting. He's a very interesting guy.
I really want to
I'm not laughing at that.
I want to try Simon's thing. Yeah, let's get some eggnog.
Simon Templar just said, try saying that name after a few drinks of eggnog. Yeah, I like my eggnog with a glacé cherry in it. I'm quite posh, you see. Yeah.
Oh, I just like the pot of cherries. I don't like the eggnog. I'll just have the cherries.
Oh, yeah, I do like cherries myself. Yeah, I do like cherries. Yeah, but yeah, I like the eggnog. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's quite nice. It is very interesting. Another interesting fact with death is and this is sort of been scientifically proven that upon death the body loses, I think it's an ounce or a few, or maybe grams actually. I think it's about 5 or 6 grams in weight from a living person to a dead person. So someone that's deceased, their weight is less, and they're not too sure where that goes because their physical body's still there. You know, you've got physiological like sort of changes that go on because the blood's not circulating, so it starts to, you know, kind of well up, as it were, but it's still there. There's nothing which should allow it to lose any weight. But I think it's I'm gonna Google it. I'm sure.
Do you know how long after death they're saying that, Phil?
Almost immediately.
Oh, okay.
Almost immediately. Yeah.
I was thinking you do lose liquid, like it does start to like get out of the pores and things.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. No.
That's after a few hours when there's been bloat and things like that. That would happen, not immediately. So.
Yeah. No, that's quite true. Here we go. Stacey said yes. 21 grams apparently. That's quite a lot, you know. 21 grams difference in weight. That's a differential. 20. That's a lot. Wouldn't you think? You know, and it's unaccountable. You know, it's something which is you know, something that can't be accounted for. So, you know, is it your life force, your spirit? Is that what's like left? Is that weighable? You know, we then go down the lines of Anubis, you know, weighing people's soul against a feather to allow them to go across the river Styx, don't we? You know, he's weighing a person's, you know, well, heart, I think in that in that context, but it could be construed as the same type of thing, isn't it? You know, so yeah, it's always go back to, you know, it's funny with life how they it goes in a circle, doesn't it? It really does go in a circle. We talk about things like now, and you know, when you look back, it goes back into a circle once again. You know, it's strange. It occurred to me today, funny enough, about it's something completely different from paranormal, but it's not. It's still part of the paranormal. All of these drones going on. So you've got people kind of like saying they've seen drones, and some of the drones are really quite odd looking. You know, some have got wings, not fixed wings. There's kind of like flapping wings. Um, are they credible because they're videos? Are they AI? You know, but the eyewitnesses have said that they've seen an awful lot with lights which they can't account for. The lights on them are not FAA approved. You know, you've also got the instant acceleration, which drones don't have. We don't have the technology for that either. And I was thinking back to myself, and I thought, well, you know, the government have been so, the UK government as well, because I remember it first starting off in Lakenheath, US Air Force Base, which is really an RAF base, but it's US Air Force Base now, and Mildnall, exactly the same. And I have heard on the grapevine Feltwell, which is a listening base, locally known by locals as the golf balls, because they've got big giant white golf balls in
I've
this
seen
field.
pictures of it. Yeah.
And I remember there was a person I knew who went out with one of the people that was in the forces, who was in the Air Force, and he was a translator. And he used to go on to the big AWACS planes, the ones with the dome, the big round, looks like a UFO, like a squished pancake on top of the plane. It's basically a C-10. Anyway, talking, and he was a translator in about 3 different languages, mostly Arabic, I believe Iranian. I forgot what the last one is, but no, Middle East. Really clever guy. He's got a brain like a sponge. You know, he's only a young guy as well. And they used to go on at AWACS, and he said it was just kitted out. You go in, and it's just monitors, screens everywhere, like kind of Star Trek. It looked like Star Trek. It was just, you know, and this is back in the day. God knows what it's like now. Anyway, and he, you know, was saying all of this, and you know, kind of, you know, the stuff that they used to overhear at Feltwell. They can listen in, like we think we're safe, but they're listening into this. They're listening to phones. They listen to any type of communication, telecommunication, which is especially like internet based or radio frequency based. Boom, that's it. They were on it like a bonnet. They got it, you know. And it just makes you wonder, because, you know, with these drones, they're meant to send out a signal. Yeah, a drone which is big enough is meant to send a signal out, like planes do. It's an identification signal, and these drones that have turned up don't have that.
Oh, okay.
And
there's no record of them.
Signal. There's no record of them. Another thing is, like with a drone, even with the more sophisticated drones, they can't fly past the line of sight. If you do that, then you're breaching the guidelines on the pilot license for a drone. And these things go for miles, over 100 miles. And I was just like, kind of the correlation. What I'm getting to is the correlation. When I was like kind of reading all this, I was looking at it, and the correlation I want to get to is the government kind of in a way going silent and then dispelling it and saying, well, you know, it's just domestic drones, or light anomalies, it's planes, it's this, you know. And I thought about, in World War II, we used to the Germans sent over the V2s, the V1s and the V2s, right? The doodlebugs. And they were way ahead of their time. And they had just packed full of gyroscopes on there, and other paraphernalia. And the velocity and that they used to go at, and the height, the trajectory, it was nearly impossible for it was impossible to bring a V2 down. I don't believe any V2 was brought down by the armaments that they had over here. Yeah. So if you like, the surface to air, they didn't have rockets, but they had like kind of big guns, boom, boom, boom. But they couldn't bring it down. Anyway, not one was brought down. And then engines used to just cut off, and then you used to get that really eerie. It used to. My mum said, because I asked her, I said, "What was the scariest part about when the V2s used to come over?" And she said, "Do you know what, Phil? The scariest part is when the engines stopped."
Mm.
I was like, "Really?" Yeah. She said, "You got a noise like a whirring washing machine, but bigger." And it used to just that in the sky, and then all of a sudden, and that was it. And then she said it would whistle. You'd get this whistle, but no one knew where it would land.
And so was that the bomb dropping, the whistle? So they cut the engines to drop the bomb.
Cut the energy, yeah. So and what they went by was altitude. When they kind of, they didn't program, because there was no programming, but they set up the telemetries using the instruments they had, mechanical instruments, and it was the altitude it went by. As soon as it got to the altitude, it then cut the engine. There's a turbine engine, and then engine was starting to go, and it just whistle as it came down, and no one knew where it would land. And that was the scariest part, Mum said. But what I'm getting at is where the correlation with the drones is. I will get there, bear with. They had the same sensibility about them at that time as they have now with the drones. The same sensibility from the point of view of give no information, ignore it, and the saving grace in the Second World War is they said, well, the good part is it won't take a single person out, individually. And we'd be like, what? Mum was like, she's only a little girl at the time, but she asked my grandma. I said, well, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, they don't know where it will land, Joe, so it'll be kind of anywhere. So there's no particular person. It's kind of a bit of Russian roulette, if you like, with a missile, for want of a better term. But that's the thing. The government has adopted the same kind of stance. So you've got something which was very little was known about the V2 and the V1 especially, very little was known. The same with the drones, very little was known. But for the government not to take one down, not to say to people to try and take one down, to basically don't interfere with them, and not to give any information out, is exactly the same ethos as back then, when you think about it. And when you kind of like think about it, that was a kind of like a machine which wasn't a good machine, was it?
Yeah,
it was a missile.
I suppose,
So I just put two and together. Maybe these things are not particularly good. Maybe that's why. Maybe these things can't be taken down. It's not a case of why haven't you taken one down?
It's they can't.
Because they can't. Like the V2s, because they can't. So when you can't do something and you're responsible for the defense and yet you can't defend, maybe that's the reason why we're getting the same correlation with the V1, V2 and the drones at the moment. Maybe because it is something a little bit more, let's say, paranormal.
Interesting theory.
Yeah, I went off on a segue there. Sorry about that. Anyway, right. So,
that's
Kelly,
what you do.
Yeah. Let's have a look. Catch up on the comments. Are there any? 21 grand. Listen there. Simon Template. Yeah, that with that weight loss after death thing, it can be explained via cell decomposition, water loss plus other elements. Yeah. So cell decomposition. You're talking cells. Probably could be. When cells break down, I guess they release. They would go through a stage of that. You're talking really a stage of where. I don't want to get too deep into it, really, but it would degrade and cause gases, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I suppose you've got a point. It could be. That's quite right, Simon. Quite right. Ryan said they are testing the elevation levels to drop bombs at. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Could be with the drones. Yeah. Simon, it's like that scene in Angel has fallen with the attempted assassination of the president.
Angel
I
has
didn't
fallen
see.
as a film, so it's about trying to direct the. I think Simon was correlating it to when you were talking about when they would switch the engine and drop in the hopes that it hit the target, but there was no real.
Oh yeah,
knowing.
yeah. Got you. Okay. Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah. Oh, Kate's here. Hello, Kate. Yep. And who else? Oh, Simon. Do you think it's to do with the loss of energy in our cells? All energy has effective mass. Yeah, it does. All energy does have effective mass, but at velocity. Let's have a look here. Evening, Phil. Hello, Kate. Kerry, what's your standout moment of the year?
I think this year has been a really interesting one for Seventh Sanctum because it's come into its own really and taken a complete turn to what we actually planned for Seventh Sanctum. When me and Natalie first started the podcast, the idea that it would just be a standalone podcast and that there wouldn't be a paranormal team attached to it. And I think as this year has gone on and the opportunities that we've had, the team is obviously, we had the original Stacey, who's in the chat, who has been associated with the paranormal work. I've done paranormal work with Stacey for years now. But we've accumulated some amazing members. Phil, yourself, Laura Howe as well. And we've got Andy Mercer, who works quite closely with us. I think my most favourite thing for me personally, and obviously Richard Clements, is that we've developed a really lovely team with amazing skill sets, really interesting people. So that's stood out for me personally within the paranormal growth of the team itself. But I think for paranormal investigation, it has to be Ironworks. We've been quite lucky to have some one-offs. We've been quite lucky to get access to buildings that haven't been investigated before, or we've done it in a way that hasn't been done before, which is fantastic. But the Ironworks is always, is a really fascinating location to investigate with some real interesting. We actually have got some CCTV there, Phil. I think I've sent you some over from the Ironworks. You can hear me and Laura excitedly chatting over it.
Okay.
We've got some CCTV from Colchester Castle. But we do have a little bit of CCTV there as well, from the Ironworks in the basement.
Right. Okay. All right. I'll try and
just
get
to give
up.
A bit of insight about the. That's okay. So the Ironworks is a building that is based in Southend-on-Sea. It hadn't been investigated before. A charity was housed there, and they were working within the community, bridging the gap between those without with those who had. So they did a fundraiser, which we helped facilitate. We joined and we offered our services whilst they were raising funds to help them raise lots of funds. And the basement, me and Laura went and checked the location out before the evening's event. And straight away in the basement, we knew there was something not quite right down there. And I think that's the first time. Stacey, who's in the chat, I've investigated with Stacey. We've gone to places by ourselves. We've done all sorts of weird and wonderful investigations with some strange places. But that was the first time I've ever seen Stacey unnerved as well in that location.
Okay. Well, my standout moment is going to be, I would say, one, Ironworks, and the part in Ironworks I really liked was we were upstairs and the group was all going down the stairs. Okay, and I was like lumbering behind, carrying the cameras and just like muttering to myself, oh, I didn't see anything. Oh, I've seen something in there. I think, oh, yeah, and I had with me a lady who was a little advanced in years, lovely lady,
Just to clarify, this lady was alive, not a spirit. We're talking about an actual person, Phil. Yeah,
an actual person. Yeah, an actual person, and lovely lady. She was quite a sensitive, wasn't she, or medium? I believe she was. Yeah, she was very sensitive.
Well,
anyway.
No. She wasn't at all. Actually, when we first turned up, which made me really. As we know, when we first investigate, this was a public event, so you can't really tell who's going to turn up and what kind of headspace they're in. And this lady was in our group with Phil and Laura. There was a couple of other people that we didn't know, and we went to the top floor. And straight away she went, "There's absolutely nothing in here, nothing at all.
It's very
I can't
dismissive,
feel anything.
isn't she?
There's this. It's dead in here." And I said, "Well, no, let's just give it a go, because if we go with the hindsight, the mindset that nothing's going to happen here, then we might block any potential. Yeah, we don't want to think everything's paranormal, but we definitely do want to be open, because we want to be able to be logical when we do experience something." Well, I know there's nothing in here. So I said, "Well, I know there is, because I know there is someone over there and there is someone over there. And we can work with either of those. It's up to you." So she went, "Okay." So as the that particular session was developing, she become very kind of open and a little bit more allowing herself to be immersive in the experience, because we'd had this really phenomenal experience upstairs where we were communicating with a gentleman that was using the K2, the pendulum, the spirit box, and also candle divination, and gave us his whole story, which we were then later able to verify in newspaper records. So I think at that moment she become really open and aware of what's going on around her. So what, Phil, you're leading to is we had to change. We went from the top of this 5-story building with the steepest stairs you've ever seen in your life, all the way to the bottom in the basement. So I've kind of gone on ahead, left my team behind. So I knew Phil was behind. I was in front. So I'd made myself my kind of set my way down, and all of a sudden I could hear screaming. And I think, Phil, this is where you see this, or this is where you come in.
Okay. Yeah. Right. So I was behind this lady who was as you said, and it was just herself and me, and she was slightly in front of me. Now there was a to the left-hand side, you'd walk down the staircase, but in front of, instead of walking down the staircase, in front was a little tiny room. It was tiled out with white tiles. Now it looked, for all intents and purposes, like a bathroom, like a toilet, really, a toilet room. But so you walked into it, white tiles everywhere, but I couldn't see a sink, and I couldn't really see a toilet in there. And I couldn't see any adaptations for any pipe work or soil stack or anything like that. So it was a bit of a strange room. Anyway, I was watching this lady. I wasn't talking to her. I was watching her. I was like, as I said, mumbling to myself behind, and I was sorting out my cameras as I normally do. And I saw her kind of stop at the staircase, and she kind of didn't go down the stairs and follow the group. She kind of went in. She got pulled into the room. Now, lucky enough, I had the camera rolling. Brilliant. And as she stepped in, she then grasped each side of the wall with her hands and looked straight ahead of her. And she then, as she kind of, she had a cup of water in her hand, and I went forward to grab the cup of water off her, because I thought, and I said to her, "Are you okay?" And she said, "It's where he died, Phil." And I was like, "Okay, it died in here." And I was like, "Who?" And she said, "A young man died in here." And I was like, "Well, okay, look, you're all right." She said, "No." She said, "Oh," and then she bent down as if she was going to fall forward. So I kind of grabbed a cup of water. By that time, I think it was her daughter was coming up the stairs because this woman was crying. I wasn't sure really what to do. Now, I know it sounds a bit pathetic on my part, but when you got a woman that you don't really know very well, to go and grab them, if she was attacked, it's different. But when it's a entity attacking and you can't see the assailant, it's hard to feel that you can grab them and pull them out. Do you know what I mean? You don't really know them, so it's like it's. But her daughter luckily came up, and she was really what the word, it wasn't scared. It was just she was saying about the death. She said to me before the daughter came up that he had I don't like saying the word, but he'd taken his own life, but in not a very nice way. He had taken it in a manner which is I can think of take my life, and not that I would, but in a different manner. He used a knife, and you can imagine, like, kind of he placed the knife where it would be the most horriblest, yeah, between your body and your head, kind of thing. So and he committed suicide that way there, and she had a strong feeling, so much so it doubled up with her. Literally, she went down towards the floor, facing the floor, but it happened really quite quickly. Interesting part is when she did that and her daughter came up and grabbed her and was like, "Mum, mum, mum," and you heard that shouting, screaming going on. She also uttered the words Lucifer, which I caught on camera. And I don't know why she said that. I don't know why she said that. She doesn't remember saying that either. If she's listening, I think I did ask her. I said, and she doesn't remember saying that. So, it's kind of like a bit of that's a standout moment. It's not particularly seeing a ghost. It's not particularly hearing a ghost, but it's a reaction, which is a reaction which is quite dramatic to witness. And that was a standout moment for me because seeing she had no reason to scream. She had no reason to double down into herself and on the floor as if she's collapsing on the floor. She had no reason to talk about a young man who had died in such a horrible manner and committed suicide. But her face changed. Her face was one of fear, and it was one of fear and of shock. And that was a standout moment because that was a direct, it was off the cuff. A lot of times when you find you see a seance or you see a Ouija happening or a table tipping, it's premeditated to a certain degree. Do you see what I mean? The people were there and they had given time, and it's kind of like they can premeditate their responses. It's not slap bang straight in your face like this woman was. It was like, boom, there you go. It is happening right this second. And that's what was a standout moment. Yeah,
And
that's mine.
she really was quite traumatized as well, wasn't she? After she couldn't join in after that. She had to go and sort of sit down and really gather herself because it really did affect her.
Yeah, it did affect her. Yeah, it affected me as well. I was like,
it brings up I think it brings up a really valid point when we think a little bit about paranormal research and how you know, it's really important that we check ourselves before we participate in something where we can be quite heavily influenced around the environment or the energies that we're in, and not just that, but by each other, because we're all kind of being quite open. We're going to do a little bit of self-care in terms of investigations. I think talking a little bit to the lady after the session, she was sharing her kind of journey of her openness, and it was something that scared her.
Yeah.
So she'd always been quite open or aware, but actually it's something that she suppressed and saw as something as being quite dark. So if you have that kind of concept of what spirit communication of the event that you're having is heavily
You still there?
important that when we go and investigate, we really need to. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you faded out a little bit there, but you're back.
Hello.
Yeah, you're back.
Can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. No, I was just saying, I think it's really important that we really think about our own unconscious biases before we go on an investigation, because it really influences our perception of our experience. There was 7 people or 8 people within our group alone. We all come away with different versions of different experiences that we experienced all at the same time. I do think there's a little bit of our own unconscious bias that plays into that a little bit. But yeah, I just think I think this story is really valid at looking at our own self before we go on and investigate something that could quite heavily influence our psyche and our perception of the world, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of times you know, one's individual interpretation of an event you know, is completely at contrast with another person's. I'm not too sure why it would be. I mean, if you see a red car, you see a red car. You know, Flora sees a red car, I see the same red car. But there's maybe different. You see, the thing is, I think that when Laura sees a red car on the road, all right, I'm seeing the same red car, but because I'm standing next to Laura, I'm seeing a slightly different angle of that red car. So she's seeing it side on. I'm seeing that red car, but I'm also seeing slightly different angle. So that enables me to see the near side front headlamp as well. Doesn't sound a lot, but in my perception,
Not just that. It's not just. I think Laura could be looking at the wheels, whereas you could be looking at the driver. So again, it's about our own biases and what we're drawn to in that experience. So I think, yes, you're very right, Phil. Different perspectives and different stances physically, yes, absolutely. But also, when we look at criminal justice, when we look at when there is an investigation, personal statements, eyewitness statements are the most untrustworthy piece of evidence unless it can be backed up with CCTV or something that's undisputed, because actually our frame of reference of how we take in information is completely different, vice versa. So for example, if I was to guess your height, Phil, I probably would say you're 5'11". How close am I?
Oh, totally out. Yeah, I'm 5'7". I'm short. I'm short house. I'm
okay, well, I'm 5'5".
You're not 5'5". I'm 5'6". You're a liar.
I'm 5'5".
You are not
I'm shorter than you. But no. Yeah.
Are you shorter than me?
Absolutely. But then this is my point. This is exactly my point. Yes. See, this is my point.
So I drive.
This is my actual point. So we, as if to illustrate the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I get it. I get what you're saying, and yeah, it's quite valid. From the point of view of we can't be accurate in viewing what we view. Our eyes and our brain are easily deceived. I mean, you could say this. I mean, CCTV, yeah, as a backup, it's very difficult now, even with CCTV, and with footage as well, either ghost or paranormal or any kind of like even cryptid. It's all very difficult. The reason is because with footage is because of the onset of AI. You can't trust it anymore. You can't trust a camera unless now it's a normal 35mm camera. So it's the same type of thing with people. People, you can't trust them because their memories change of an event as well. So my memories will change of the event. When I think back to that lady going into that room and having a screaming abdabs because she saw someone or felt somebody who committed suicide, my memories of her aren't as crystal as the video footage that I took.
Yeah.
But that doesn't detach from the fact that with criminal evidence, there has to be, you can't take witness testimony alone. If it's a single witness, it's very, very difficult to put that forward to a court of law without backup of other evidence, because it is that witness individual testifying, and that individual testifying could have got it wrong or could have misremembered. It's just one of those things. The law has to be within reasonable doubt, and one person witnessing something is unreasonable, isn't it? It's like kind of it just going on what that person's saying. We get it all the while. You get it, I get it with interviews. I get it all the while. I'm talking to people and they are credible people. You talk to people, credible people that you would meet and think, do you know what a stand-up person that is, really trustworthy, and what they saw, I thoroughly believe. But I have to believe they saw that, because once again, all of these things that are witnessed, we can't get that tangible piece of evidence. We can't get that ghost photo, and even then, is it AI? We've buggered ourselves, really. We have buggered ourselves because of, we've gone so far forward now and advanced so much in technology, it's become reality. And that's like made this job that we do really, really hard. But yeah, I think if you've got multiple witnesses, if there's a multiple witness event, as in law, if many people witness the same road traffic accident and see that the motorcyclist, wasn't in the wrong, the light was green, then that car driver's going to get it because it was witnessed by multiple people. They might have had different perspective of the accident, but yeah, it's going to be, that's sorely what we're missing, really. We're missing multiple people seeing the same thing with clarity, and that's what makes life really hard. It always seems to be these ghosts, these spirits, these cryptids, these drones, these everything else always seem to appear on an individual basis to a person. They never kind of like tap you on the shoulder as a group and go, all right, how you doing? Oh, yeah, I died last week. Yeah. How many years there? Let's count up. I was 8 heads. Yeah, I'm here. It's not. It's in the peripheral vision. It's like kind of you walk into a dark corridor and you get a feeling, and then you might see something just go past. It's really individual. And that's so frustrating. I don't know if you find the same, but I find it really frustrating.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of those things. Shall I? Hang on, let's have a look. Oh, I just want to say hello. How you doing, Kenny? What we got here on the thing? See what people are saying. Got Simon, Stacy. That could well be one of the other elements for sure. Okay, right. Okay, yeah. Yeah, Jojo. Hi, Star Fox. Star Fox, really nice guy. Really nice guy. Knows an awful lot of stuff. Yeah, Kate, evening, Laura. Yeah. Star Fox. Hello. Phil's one of my hosts and friends. Just saying hello. Waking up from my casket. Ha ha ha. Yeah. Right. Evening. Yeah. Kate saying evening, Kerry. Stacey saying yep. And what we got here? We've got. I can't read that.
It says shudder.
I think
Stacey was saying
comments.
Yeah. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I'm just going through the comments so they know that, you know. Yeah, I know. I'm just kind of like sort of going through them. Right, let's get the media files up, and I'm going to start. Now, these media files you sent across didn't have any headers on them. There's no names of what they were. So I'm going to click on one, all right, on the first one.
It's the devil.
Oh, hang on, no, hang on. Sorry. Right. Hold on. Yeah, I'm back again. Hang on, let me start again.
It's the devil. Come.
Okay, it's the devil. I heard laughing then.
Where was that, Kerry?
Yeah, so this was a really interesting investigation. This was at Kelvedon Hatch. We were doing sensory deprivation. This is an oldie but a goodie. It's one of my favourite ones. Mark Manley, Andy Mercer, Laura Howe, and Stace as well. We were doing sensory deprivation, and we were having really clear communication with entity. The video itself, when you look at it, you can see that there is the person that's doing sensory deprivation, their face is completely covered, like it's like a film that's almost over the top, you can't see. And I said, "Who's there?" The devil. And then you heard a little girl laugh, and then you heard them say, which is also known as the something Skulls experiment or Skulls experiment. There's another word for that. Another term.
You're breaking up again, Kerry. I didn't actually hear what experiment you said.
I didn't hear it.
No. Are you there, Kerry?
Yes, sorry, it's a terrible internet connection. Yeah, so I hope I explained it, or I hope that come across. You heard that.
Well, yeah, I heard that you were in Kelvedon Hatch, and could you just quickly, because I really didn't get it, can you just quickly do it again? Say it again. Kerry?
Yeah, so I was in Kelvedon Hatch. We was with Mark Manley, Andy Mercer, Laura, and Stace, and we was doing sensory deprivation. And as you can see, the person that was doing the sensory deprivation, their face kind of was really distorted on the camera. But we were asking who was there, and they said, "It's the devil." And then you heard a little girl laugh from nowhere. We was in the deep depths of Kelvedon Hatch, and then he's coming.
Oh, yeah, it's quite clear. It was clear. Yeah, that was a good one. That one, that was quite clear. Right, let's just okay. Right, I'm going to play another one now. Okay.
Hold on. I'm going to rewind it, and then I'm going to push play.
Right. And now I'm going which way? Okay, I've got it coming along there. But you'll see in a minute there's other specks of dust.
Yeah, there's a big one that goes across there.
Right.
But then that one turns around and goes back the other way. As if it's changed its mind. And if you notice, there was something just flashed up here as well as it was doing that. Yeah. And then it's coming back again to go up the stairs. Oh, it comes all the way through. Does it appear on any others?
Possibly.
Yeah.
There's a slight delay.
Yeah, they don't match up, do they? So that could have been the same one. We should have set up something on those stairs. They're
Ironworks.
Yeah, that was the basement at Ironworks. That was mine and Kerry's very excited chatter there. Sort of looking back through it, and near that same point, Kerry might have sent it as well, so I don't want to say too much. There was sort of a very obvious movement, but I'll see what else she's sent you and we can see.
Okay, let's have a look. All right then, let's get the next one up, shall we? Here we go. I'm just getting rid of that one now. Okay, here we go.
So what you're seeing here is the preparation for an experiment called the human pendulum. Just like the normal pendulum, however, here you use the human as a conduit. We have set the intention that leaning backwards is a no, leaning forward is a yes. Whilst this is taking place, we have a guest that is using the spirit box, using sensory deprivation. This includes the face mask and over the ears headphones. So essentially she cannot hear what is going on. And we also have a guest using the K2 too. We know that orbs aren't for everyone, however there's some interesting ones coinciding with some activity too.
Oh, that was a good one.
I can hear a man, but I can't hear what he's saying. It's too muffled.
If you're accused of something you did not do, touch the green light if you want to. Did you do what you was accused of?
Bottom left screen, top left corner. Note this orb travelling through Kerry into the guest. Kerry then indicates a stomach injury.
Did you have family that come to help you while she was here? Can I ask, was you hurt? Was there something that happened to your stomach? Okay, so you're getting red. Perfect, thank you very much. Did something happen to you in this room?
The K2 starts lighting up to red.
So if it's just a little box with a set of like 5 lights, green is like nothing's around, and if it hits red, it usually means that there's like a magnetic field that's come close. Go into a room and you'll check walls and the floors, things, pipes, to see if there's a baseline. But this is the first to go off, and I think it's probably because Kerry and Gary are in there.
No, it's not in our screen.
The kid just shouted what's going on, like something like that.
This lady was accused of something. She didn't do it, but she didn't say she didn't do it. Does that make sense? Because when I said to do this, she said no. So when you falsely accused, she said yes. So it wasn't to do with them boys. Was it to do?
We notice the guest starts acting differently to responses. Bottom left screen, top right corner. What is interesting is the orb seems to go down and then goes towards the participant. Once this happens, she indicates that she feels like someone has kicked the back of her leg.
You've done so well tonight already by doing that. So keep doing that and let us know that you're there. We want to talk to the young boy who said, what is going on? Are you here? The little boy that said, what, or the little one that said, what is going on? Are you here? Is the lady still with us?
Evil laughing, like a woman's evil laughing in the background.
What we found quite interesting was the lady that mentioned the evil laughing was actually taking part in an experiment called sensory deprivation. Here she is wearing headphones and she is also wearing an eye mask, and she is unable to hear the conversations that are going on around her. So it validated for us the interaction with the lady. Now, we do not believe the lady was evil. What we do believe is that she had two sons and one harmed the other. She did not want the other one to be imprisoned or be trialed, so she took the blame for this. So essentially she shouldn't have been there. The presence of this lady was very strong throughout the evening, and especially in this location. All in all, it was an interesting interaction with K2 Hit, Spirit Box and the human pendulum activity as well. We was able to get some interesting validation from the K2 and from the Spirit Box throughout the evening. Sadly, you cannot see the K2 in this interaction, but it was hitting red, which is quite good, and we had a great evening.
Are we back, Phil?
Okay, good.
Yep.
What was going on there?
So that was Kerry, Laura, and Kerry in the jail at Colchester Castle again. So that's when I gave my sort of experience earlier. I was in the opposite group to this. So this is I went down there first. While Kerry done an activity upstairs with the other group members, and then we switched over. So this was after my interaction earlier that night.
Okay, yeah, I know that jail. Yeah, it's only a little jail, isn't it? When you walk into it, guys. Yeah, when you walk into it, you go down a staircase, and you walking along, and if you can imagine a room, I would say no bigger than probably let's have a look, about 15 to 20 foot in width, by about 15 foot depth, and that was like the area we were standing in. And then you had two separate cells. One cell in front of you, which was a large cell, wasn't like a police cell, which are quite small. Not that I know, but they're quite large. I suppose you could hold up to about 8 or 9 people in there quite comfortably. And then you had another cell on the left-hand side. But I know I was down there with Andy Mercer and a small group, and we were down there having a little look.
Yeah, you were down there with me, Phil. Yeah,
that's right. I was. Yeah, I was down there with you. Yeah, and then it was quite good. I got a feeling in there. I did get a feeling in there. So much so, when the group went, I went back.
Yeah, you stayed there when we moved. Yeah.
Yeah, I stayed there, and yeah, I definitely. As I was walking out, I was like not shouting, but I was asking out, and if anyone's here, I'm here, I'm alone. Kind of make yourself known. My name's Phil. nice to meet you, you know. But as I was walking out of the place through the doorway, I did get a knock from inside the room. Now, the only place inside the room, the only really odd item. So if you can imagine, not in the cells are all set. There's two cells, one in front, one to the side to the left as you walk in, and they got doors, and then they got these bars, iron bars coming down. Now the iron bars don't go all the way down to the bottom like an old Western jail. It's got wood halfway, waist height wood, and then cell bars up from there. And the only other thing in this room, between the two cells, was a cupboard, wasn't it? Some weird cupboard.
It's where they stored the lights to create the effects and things in the day, I believe.
Yeah.
Purely because I was nosy and looked in there, but yeah.
Right. I'm glad you did. I didn't. But I had a knock come from that area where the cupboard was. That's the only thing I can't. Yeah, and I'm not sort of like too skittish, really, you know. But as I was walking out, it was a definitive boom knock, you know, like a.
That's the same corner that I kept seeing the lady's face appearing in. So it's quite interesting. It was the same area of.
Makes sense then. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Because there's also a fireplace in that room, which is really peculiar. Sort of.
I know. Oh, yeah.
Because you
suppose if they got, I suppose they might have if you know, kind of. You think years ago if they were like kind of, I mean, it's going to be a cold place anyway, isn't it? The castle.
Yeah.
It's going to be cold, so I suppose, you know, they've got to, you know, they're keeping people there against their will. They've got to keep them warm, I suppose. Might be that.
But a lot of people died there from cold and malnutrition and things like that. So they didn't take that good a care of them. Maybe they didn't know how to light a fire.
Maybe they did know.
It was just staring at the prisoners, winding them up, going, "I could make you warm, but I'm not going to."
Yeah, it might have been that. Might have been that. We've lost Kerry.
Yeah, she's disappeared, and she's the one that's video that was, so she would be able to explain it a lot better.
Yeah, okay.
And she loves the human pendulum, so Simon, she will be able to answer that when she comes back, hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully
I'm sure. Back. Yeah, she's probably had some experiences with little to no movement, but the ones I've watched have always been quite successful. But again, that could be human bias because you want that person in the middle. We're reliant on them being very relaxed and allowing that movement to come from a spirit passing its energy, but you don't know if it could be them unconsciously moving because they want the answer to reflect what you've asked.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
it's an interesting experiment, but it's very tricky to know what to sort of where to sit with it, from my opinion anyway. Other people might love it, hate it, but yeah, I'm a little bit mixed sort of feelings about the human pendulum.
Yeah, we're sometimes our own worst enemy, aren't we? You know, because we're the ones performing the experiment, and we're quite fallible, aren't we? You know, to things like that. You know, with suggestion and like you said, you know, it's a shame there is no sort of like. I mean, the bona fide thing really is EVP. You know, that's kind of like, so long as it's witnessed. EVP is quite credible, really. You know, I've heard some really good EVPs over my time. Yeah, what do you think of orbs, Laura? You know, we talk about orbs and seeing them.
Yeah, again, it's very tricky because there's a lot of things that it could be. Dust, bugs, things that you could kind of put it down to. But the video that I was talking about in the basement that me and Kerry were getting excited about, it hasn't shown. But we actually saw, it wasn't just the orb. There was a movement of light shift that quite literally looked like footsteps, and you could see the movement of the foot. And it coincided with that orb that went through the staircase, as if someone was about to walk up the stairs. So that one was a little bit harder to put down to a bug or a bit of dust. because it was so convincingly feet. There was nothing else it could have been. Sort of the tread, the movement, the gait, everything was footsteps. So that one was sort of a lot harder to sort of debunk.
Yeah.
Almost. But
yeah. I remember you sent me that footage of that orb that you sent. You know, you sent it over that you saw the orb and going across, and I kind of like I played about with the footage, had a little look at it, and I must say to the people out there, I posted it, but it is orbs are you do get like refraction of light. You also get in places where there's a lot of moisture, you know, in the air. You get that happening where light bounces off the particles of moisture. You know, there is a lot of things it possibly could be, but when it starts acting in a predetermined manner, when it starts having some kind of like control over itself and its movements, that's when I start getting a bit, do you know what?
Yeah.
That's something else. And that orb you sent me, when I played about with the image and the footage, and I sent it back to you, didn't I? I sent it back to you, and you can quite clearly see it coming along, and it will look like it was under control. If it was a piece of dust, or you know, a particle of dust, or maybe even moisture, because it was a cellar, so it's kind of damp down there. But if it was, it wouldn't have moved in such a controlled manner, because it came towards the camera to the left hand side but skirted around the staircase. And you kind of think, and when it's moving, and it's moving in such a straight line, you've wondered to yourself, you know, is that possible that it can move in a... Hey Kerry,
she's back.
I'm sorry, my laptop is not having a good time.
does your video work yet?
I haven't attempted, because I tried to get on and I haven't blurred my background or anything.
Okay.
But
notoriously,
tipping.
We want
with
to
the
know
laptop,
about tipping.
Doesn't like it.
Yeah, Kerry, Simon's got a question.
Cow tipping?
No, yeah, cow tipping. Yes, please. No. No, Simon's got a really good question, and we're not quite sure of the answer. It's about the human pendulum. Have you ever had anyone not move?
No, it's really strange. So I don't know whether I wouldn't recommend doing it by yourself, right? But if ever you just completely relax yourself and stand very still, you naturally begin to be a little bit like you become a little bit not unstable, but you where you relax yourself, I suppose your feet aren't completely cemented to the floor, where naturally you will stop yourself from moving back and forth. But with the human pendulum, the idea is that you go into such a kind of relaxed state, like a meditative state, and you can relax your body completely. So your muscles that would naturally stop you from tipping over or moving, that they're relaxed, so they won't do their job per se. Because you know you've got people like they're trustful, you've got people either side. I've never done a pendulum where someone has been completely... You can tell when someone's not relaxed because their shoulders are tight, their jawline is tensed. After you talk them through that, just relax your jaw, relax your shoulders, give yourself a little bit of a shake. Then you know they then kind of aren't so stops themselves from doing it.
Do you ever question, Kerry, if the person that is being the pendulum and they know what they're meant to be doing, do they kind of prime themselves and make themselves move to meet the demand of what's being asked of them? Or what?
I would say, have you ever... Can you tell the difference between someone who's pretending to be asleep and he was actually asleep?
Well, I'm really good at doing that, so I can't answer.
Typically we can tell when someone's like pretending to kind of not be awake or pretending to be asleep. And it's the same when you look at the movements that someone has. They're a lot more we've done the human pendulum before, Phil, and the movements are quite fluid, aren't they? Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. They are. Yeah, they are. I mean, it's one of the most. I was talking, but when you went, I was talking with Laura about it, and we both like kind of came to a conclusion that it because of the fallibility of humans, kind of as you say, we've got no option but to. It's very difficult to stand on the spot and not to move or sway slightly. It's another one that kind of getting the results is reliant upon that person and the person asking questions. Having It's very important, the person that asks the questions, because the questions he asks, or they ask, sorry, have to be quite specific questions to them to for the pendulum to work, because in essence the pendulum is you've got different directions. If we explain it for the people that don't know, the pendulum, you move, don't you, Kerry, in a certain direction for yes, no, and how do you do it?
Yeah, so you set the tone. So you'll say, working with spirit, yes is a movement forward, no is a movement back. So it's really important to remember those and not get them confused, like I do sometimes when I'm asking questions. And essentially, what I think, Phil, you're making a really good point, because if we were to do a human pendulum, and me and you, let's say, was contacting a spirit that neither of us know, there's no way of us really validating the information that we're getting. However, if we're making contact with a spirit that someone is familiar with, then we're more likely to get that validation, which makes it a little bit more profound. It doesn't feel like it's just being plucked out of thin air. It feels like genuine communication when it's being validated. I think I like the human pendulum because, as yes, we do have that human consciousness that can interfere, but actually, when you think a little bit about the criticism on divination itself, I think sometimes when we think about divination, we're sometimes, it's sometimes framed in the fact that it's us picking up on our own kind of knowledge. That's what. So with the human pendulum, I feel like sometimes that gets removed.
Yeah. The most fascinating episode, whenever I saw you do human pendulum at the North Weald haunted ghost platform. It was an organized event we went to, wasn't it? And you done a human pendulum in there in the signal box, and there was a guy in front of you who was part of was it ghost haunt tours, I think it was, or something. And there was a guy behind you anyway. So you weren't au fait with them. They weren't really au fait. You didn't know them. You didn't know them. They didn't know you. It was a totally new group to you. So that was great from my point of view, because I'm a dead skeptic. I'm when I say skeptic, I've experienced a lot of paranormal stuff myself, but I'm skeptical about it's selfish, isn't it? I'm skeptical about other people's up to a degree, but then I've spoken to people who've had the same feelings and the same type of events happen to them, and I go, hang on, yes, my God, you did. You must have seen the same shadow being. You must have seen the same bird. So, but ordinarily, I'm a bit, oh, really, but you done a human pendulum. You didn't know the guy in front, didn't know the guy behind. Anyway, you started doing a human pendulum in this signal box in North Weald haunted ghost event. Anyway, really good. And the guy behind started, the guy in front who was in charge of the whole group, you know, the organisation of the whole group who'd done the event, he was asking you questions. Are you male? Are you female? Did you die here? Did you work here? You know, the usual questions which we ask, you know. And slowly but surely it came out like a thread of gold. Where the guy behind, I was filming it at the time, and I could see his face change, because the questions being asked were, the answers were pertaining to him standing behind, and he recognized the answers as being not a person that worked there, not a person that died there, but a person who was personal to him, who travelled with him to that event. And if you take it over, Kerry, if you take over the description and how for a start, how did you feel? Were you conscious when you were doing the pendulum? Are you conscious of your surroundings and what you're being asked?
No. So I tend to go into what some people refer to as an altered state. Just basically means that I completely relax myself down, open myself up a little bit. Quite comfortable and confident in doing that. It's not something that I haven't done before, so I'm okay doing that on investigations. And essentially, you can feel yourself get a bit unsteady as you're starting to go in. You can feel yourself become a little bit unsteady, and you catch yourself because you think you're going to fall. And you have to get through that part, and again, just completely relax yourself. And then it was just kind of, it's almost like when we're being taught about mediumship, I sat in circle for a while, and one of the big things that always is perceived as a barrier is our own self. So essentially we're taught to step out of our own way, and that's essentially what I did. Was I kind of just stepped out of my own way, and then just kind of I think the only time that I did the power, so this particular instance, we made communication with the gentleman behind me, his dad. I don't know this man doesn't know me, and I was just allowing whatever was communicating to communicate. So essentially a conduit. However, some of the questions that were being answered, and some of them were quite tricky as well. One was, are you dad? Are you my real dad? Things like that. So there are like some of the questions are quite complex, but it turns out to be his dad, who he didn't have from my understanding, a great relationship with. So what actually happened was it ended quite shortly, quite abruptly.
It did, yeah. They bought it. The guy in front, the one who kind of was running the whole gig, he saw, because on film it's fascinating for me, because I'm so pleased that I got it on video, because from starting off as a pendulum, yes, no answers to questions, and then this comprehension came over this guy standing behind that, hang on, talking about, he's a male. Is he related to anyone in this room? Yes. Can you move in the direction of the person who in this room who he's related to? And you move towards him. That really got him. That really got him. His face changed on film. Yeah. That's one of the questions that was asked of you. So, can you move towards the person in the room who you're attached to? And you moved to the guy. You moved towards the guy. And they then asked, they run through relatives. Well, are you brother? No. Father? Is it your son? Yes. You moved in the yes position. But then it got a little bit complicated, and this is what made it fascinating. because it wasn't actually his father. It was his real father. His father was his stepdad. That's who he credits being his father. That's who brought him up. This guy that had come through is his real father that had followed him. And as you say, they stopped it. They stopped the human pendulum. The guy who ran it said, look, you were getting too deep into it, into your trance. You were getting a bit too deep. He felt uncomfortable with you getting so deep. And when I say getting so deep, having answers that were so specific to this guy behind. You were too specific, and that's what worried him. The guy behind needed a break. He said, look, I've got to stop. He said, I've got to stop. I need a break. You can see he was, he was obviously gobsmacked. He was like, what, and as you say, he didn't really particularly like his father. I found that out because he had a break and went outside and had a fag. Or cigarette, sorry, if you're in America. So, I followed him out because I said I know the guy that runs that group, and I said to him, "Do you want me to go out, and make sure he's okay?" He said, "Yeah, if you don't mind, Phil, that'd be great." I was like, "All right." So I went out and stood with him, and then I turned around and I asked him. I said, "You okay, mate?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Not really, no." I was like, I said, "Can I ask why weren't you, your response was like one of kind of almost fear, you didn't, if it was me and it was, my dad had come back, I'd be like, Dad, how you doing? You all right? You old bugger. Mum's not about, how's the women in heaven? It was a bit like that. And I was like, and he said, no, Phil. He said, you don't understand. He said, I stopped it also because he's not a nice man. He wasn't a nice man. And I don't want him in Kerry. He shouldn't be in her. He's not nice. He's it's wrong that he's in her. If you knew him, he said, I could tell you. He said, but I'm not going to. But just believe me when I say, Phil, he was not a nice man. And that's part of the reason why he didn't want to continue on with it, because of your sake. Because of, if he was in you somehow, then he didn't want that. And he spoke to me outside, and he said that he just what he's going to do. He said if he's still like kind of hanging around me, he said I'll go home, and his wife is a medium, and he said he can talk to me if he wants through my wife at home, where it's a bit more, he didn't want any to air his dirty laundry in public, I think, also. Do you know what I mean? Not him particular, but his father's dirty laundry. He didn't want it coming out that, it doesn't take a lot of imagination to imagine what he may have been like. So, fair play to him, I say. Interesting part of it is on the video, we were leaving. So, and what they do with these ghost groups, they kind of they segregate the groups into 10, and they have a group of 10 in one place, in one section. So it might be in the ticket office, and another group in the signal box, and another group in the, somewhere else, maybe in a railway carriage or something. And they would just swap people around, which is fine. It's good. The way to do it, really, so you get a little bit of everything. As we were walking away, I took some last footage, some sort of last footage. I don't see this myself. Weird that you guys can't pick it up, but I just took some footage of the signal box at a distance. And immediately after leaving it, and where I was talking to this guy that you were communicating with his dad about, Kerry, I caught I like to call it an entity, because I still am not sure about ghosts. I caught an entity climbing out through the window in the exact same position that son was stood in, talking about his father. And I think I sent it to you, didn't I? That still picture.
Yeah.
It's quite impressive. I know a little bit about cameras, a little bit, and I run it through some software which I've got, and with the software, what it does is anything like with orbs, it will show up if it is emitting light or reflecting light. There's a difference because of the ISO value. You know, you can kind of like get a slight difference, and it will show up on the software. This entity coming out, it had its own light source. Now, what I mean by that is that side of the building was in shadow. The only light which would bleed onto the picture or the video was coming from the front of the building. The side coming out where this son was, whose father came out the window, I believe, where this entity was coming out, was completely in shadow. There was no bleeding through of light at all on that side of the building, completely dark. And it showed up. I thought, oh yeah, that's actually emanating light, which was fascinating for me. I loved it. Really good. Yeah. I've still got one bit of media. Shall I play it?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go in a minute because I've got work tomorrow and it's past my bedtime already. So I might
say the same thing.
Okay. All right then. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm not sure if this is a quick one or not. Let me just. What's that?
So that was at Mistley Pond.
Oh.
I was doing an impromptu spirit box session, and I sound a bit phased, a bit miffed on one of those recordings, but you can hear someone say she's a witch through the spirit box.
Really?
Yeah. So there was 2 that I sent over to Phil. One, I don't think one of them sent through, and I think it's the one that didn't send through that you can hear. You hear through the spirit box. It says she's a witch. And I was like, I am a witch. You're correct. But yeah,
Right.
so I'll send the link again. But essentially, what the recording is a spirit box session alongside Mistley Pond.
You sure it's not that one that she says it in?
I'm not quite sure.
I'll play it again. Hold on.
From what I heard, the very, very start of it, you could hear witch, and then Kerry goes, I'm a witch. So I think it's probably in the other recording and it's not quite copied over.
Yeah.
But I thought it was quite an interesting little, that was an impromptu little trek around Mistley. I went for some lunch there and we popped by. So it was an interesting little look, but definitely somewhere that I'd love to do a proper investigation. I don't know if Stacey's still watching, but we've been saying it for years. But a nice little investigation location would be great there.
I've not been there. I haven't been there, Mistley, yet. I've got to go. I have got to go there. But I haven't been there yet. I want to go.
It is really interesting. It's quite easy to get to, but what I love about it is that just as you go into it, you got to walk through a rugby pitch. Before the rugby pitch is a housing estate, but it's a repurposed aeroplane hangar, and it's like got the bunkers, but they're all made into houses now. Really great, really interesting little housing estate.
Well, I've added it to my list of haunted locations, so I'll share that once I've got a nice little catalogue going on, and then we've got some to pick from.
Okay.
Perfect.
Should we call it a wrap then?
Yeah,
Thank
I'm going to
you.
say Merry Christmas and nice to
Yes.
talk to everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to say the same as well. I want to say to everyone, listen, this year, thank you for supporting us. Thank you very much for all your input on all the videos, the lives. Your support's been great. Really appreciated. Yeah, just thanks for sticking with us. Have a very, very Merry Christmas. And I'm not going to say Happy New Year yet because it's not New Year. We'll probably do something for New Year. But have a really lovely, lovely, happy Christmas anyway for for everyone watching. And really do appreciate your time in watching and your input. It's just great. It's like a little community, and I love the community. I think it's great. It's a lovely thing, and I do appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. I concur.
Okay, cool. Okay, bye-bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.